Hi there, and thank you for joining me. So in this series of videos, I want to be looking at and explaining basically the different movements that our body is capable of at each joint. So within this video, I'm going to focus on wrists and the movements that can be quite helpful for yoga. So when you first come to a yoga class, you might notice that we spend an awful lot of time on our hands, in down dogs, in planks, in chaturangas, in a various other different postures as well. So you might notice that when you first come to a class, your wrists get really sore really quickly. And essentially, you need quite a lot of extension in your hands to be able to hold a high plank or to be able to do a push-up and all this sort of stuff. And if that's not there, just because it's not, for lack of use or anything like that, then you'll need to build that up quite slowly. So sometimes it's nice to supplement our practice with other little bits and bobs. And I like to do this all the time if I'm working towards a specific goal, or I feel like a certain part of me is a little bit imbalanced and I need to just focus on that area a little bit. If it's going to make my life a little bit easier, then that's perfect. So that's what I want to be able to offer you in all of these little videos, is to give you a couple of different exercises that you can do to help strengthen your wrists, your ankles, your shoulders, your back, all of these different joints, okay? And just for yourself to be able to explore your own body's range of motion a little bit easier and understand what movements we should be able to do, for example. I'm not sure why I've done that little spin thing, a little bit of demonstration of it, I suppose. But all the different movements that our body's capable of at specific joints, okay? So the first thing, as I said, we're going to talk about or look into in this video is our wrists. So as I say, when we're coming into our down dog positions or anything like that, we're in one of these positions where there's a little bit of an angle. Yeah, there's a little bit of an angle at your wrist. So we're not necessarily like we're in our high plank position where there's quite a lot of flexion in your wrist, but there's still a lot of pressure going down into the wrists and down through the hands. Now, one of the most important things in yoga and in planks and down dogs is that we're applying pressure through all points of the hand, okay? So we're not just like pressing down through the wrist here, okay? We're pushing down through all points of the fingers, and especially in this little L shape here, okay? So especially on the inside of the wrist, this is where the wrist is its most stable and its most strong. If you were putting all the weight on the outside of the wrist, for example, like that, it's probably going to start to hurt pretty soon, okay? So there's a couple of different things we can do to warm up the wrists, to get used to putting pressure down through our hands again, because if that's not something we've done for a very long time, and we started to come to yoga or any other movement practice, it can be a bit of a shock to the wrists, basically. So the first thing that we're going to do to get our wrists used to holding weight and bearing weight again is come into this position, just like I am, into your tabletop position. And there's a couple of ways we can modify this, okay? So having a bit of a gap between your knee and your wrist is going to make it a little bit more intense. Just like, as you can imagine, if I step my hands further forward and come into a plank, I'm putting more resistance down through, or more tension, sorry, down through my wrists. If I come down and bring my hands a little bit closer to my knees, it's going to be a little bit less intense, okay? So play around with it and feel somewhere. You can paw your hands down at the ground here and just bring a little bit of blood flow into them. Find your spot that feels right for you, okay? Now the next thing I want you to do is push down through the hands. And it's almost like you're trying to squeeze your fingers back towards your palms, almost so that the knuckles of the hands lift up and you can drive down through all points of your hands, okay? And then relax your hands and do the same thing again. So it's like you're driving the heel of the hand down, squeezing the fingertips back towards you and pushing down even through the thumb, okay? So pushing down through all points of the hand, even underneath the sort of knuckles of your palms. So in here, all of this area through each finger point as well. Now, push down and relax a couple of times. Get a feel for that. How does it feel in your forearm? What part of your forearm feels like it's tensing up and activating to facilitate this movement, okay? And the next thing we're going to do is push down, drive down through all points of the hands as best you can, get your arms as straight as you possibly can, and we're going to do some little circles, okay? So just going clockwise or anti-clockwise, we're going to go both ways. These circles can be as slow and as small as you possibly like, whatever feels comfortable. And this is really important. This applies for all of these other videos in the series. If at any point you encounter pain through a certain range of motion, do not go into that range of motion, okay? Back off a little bit and ease into it. If at any point you experience quite a lot of pain through any movement, I would personally recommend that you go to a physiotherapist. There's a limit to what yoga can do for you, but a physiotherapist, this is their job, okay? To look at your body and to treat it and to give you exercise that are going to improve your range of motion and normal functioning, okay? Now I can help you as much as I can, but physiotherapy is very much a recommended thing, okay? Now I want you to repeat the same circle, but go the other direction. So if you're going clockwise, go anti-clockwise. Keep driving down through the hands and the fingers. Arms straight. Hopefully the wrists are starting to feel nice and warm. Maybe a little bit of tension's creeping in there, and that's okay. It's to be expected. Okay. And do one more rotation. And I want you to sit back on your heels or any comfortable seat and just give them a little roll around. Okay, so not quickly, just nice and slowly. Clench your fists, open them, clench your fists, open them, and just rotate them around. Okay, so you'll notice as you're doing this, they're capable of quite a lot of movement. Yeah, so a lot of movement is coming from, of course, this rotation from the elbow, but you're getting quite a lot of rotation. If I isolate that, for example, your wrist's capable of quite a lot of movement, or not quite a lot, but a little bit, quite a lot of different styles, okay? So it's really important that we can put the force through the strongest point of the wrist for our down dogs, for our high planks, for our arm bounces, for handstands, all of that sort of stuff, okay? So we're not bearing weight on the outside, like I said before. Now it's important that our forearms are nice and strong and they're stretched out as well. So to increase this range of motion, we of course need to be able to stretch and get a little bit more flexible here as well as in here, okay? So if you're someone who finds that even just bringing your shoulder directly over your wrist is quite demanding, this is something that we'll need to build up over time. So I'll show you how to do that in these next couple of steps, okay? So the first thing that I want you to do is the same thing that we just done. If you need to be back here to start with, that's fine, but I want you to drive through your hands, okay? Keep your arms nice and straight, and then start to shift your weight forward. So go as far forward as you possibly can. If you pause here, that's fine, but keep driving and keep like fighting for more, okay? So you might get to cramp, you might build up quite a lot of tension, but that's okay. And then I want you to release. Okay? Then the next time, come forward. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Hold. Remember to breathe in all of these stretches as well. Okay. Push for a little bit more, and then release. Okay, now I want you to pull your left arm out in front of you, bring your right hand to your palm, keep your left hand nice and rigid, left arm straight, and then bring your right hand to almost pull your hand back, okay? And it's like you're trying to keep driving the heel of the left hand away and pulling the palm back to increase the amount of flexion at the wrist there, okay? So I do have quite an extreme amount of flexion on my wrist, as you can see. Yours might be a little bit further back, like here, but just keep resisting, and then release the hand, but keep fighting for more, and relax. Okay, now we're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. You're going to extend the right arm out in front of you, drive the heel away from you, arm nice and straight, keep pushing, then bring your left hand this time, of course, to the palm of your hand. Keep everything really rigid. Keep as much activity through the forearm, through the arm as possible, and pull. Stretching all of this tissue on the underside of your forearm. Keep pulling. And then release the hand, but keep squeezing it back. Keep squeezing. And then release it down. Shake them out. You're welcome to swear at any point. These can be quite demanding, shall we say. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. As much as it's important to be able to do this, just for good healthy wrists, it's quite important to be able to go this way as well. Now this next stretch can be quite intense, so just take it nice and easily and be gentle with it, okay? Same thing applies, okay? So having your hands further away, going to be more demanding. Having your hands closer, going to be a little bit less demanding. So I would recommend, especially for this practice, that you have your hands a little bit closer towards your knees, and this time, as best as possible, I want you to bring the back of your hand onto the floor so that your palms and your fingers are facing back towards you, okay? Now I want you to drive through your hands, so you're rounding through the shoulders, pushing down through your hands, and your hands want to be kind of like this in this instance, yeah? Okay, so as much as you can, trying to keep all of the back of your hand on the ground, Mostly pushing down through this back part of the wrist, okay? Driving through the ground. It's almost like you're trying to turn your biceps forward, yeah? And then keep pushing, keep pushing. Remember, you can release this at any point that you need to. We're going to hold for another 5 seconds if you're still with me. And then release, okay? Gently, slowly, move the wrist around, give them little circles, okay? Don't worry if there's any clicking or knocking eventually. That will hopefully go away. And as long as there's no pain associated with it, don't worry about it. It's just gas moving around in the joint, okay? Now we're going to do the same thing again this time. Sorry, not the same thing again, but the same action that we just done, but with our arms straight out in front of us and not on the ground, okay? So we'll start with our left hand, extend it out in front of you and extend the heel of the hand away. Apologies if you can hear that train passing by, I hope you can. And then bring your right hand underneath, left arm really, really rigid, keep pushing it. And then gently, 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 apply a bit of pressure to increase the flexion of your wrist here, okay? Remember to breathe, and then release. Same thing again on the other side, extend the right hand, pull it back towards you, left hand comes to the back of the hand and gently pushes. Keep pushing, keep applying pressure, and then relax, give them a little shimmy round, and we've got one more stretch to do for the forearms, okay? So when you're ready, come down onto your forearms, and this time I want you to turn your fingers to face back the way. Once again, this is one of the ones that can be quite intense, so have your fingers a little bit closer towards your knees. Drive down through all points of your hands, biceps definitely facing forward in this way, okay? Maybe rotate them in a little bit more. Drive through the hands and the fingers and then start to shift your weight back. Now at no point do I want your wrists to lift up here, okay? I want them to just stay down, all points of the palm on the ground, drive through the wrists and slowly shift your weight back. You'll notice pretty quickly that the stretch gets quite intense through your forearms. I want you to keep driving down through your hands and hold it for between 15 to 30 seconds, okay? And then when you're ready, you'll come forward and you'll release gently. Bring both hands out and just paw at the ground a couple of times, okay? And then we'll just finish with one little strengthening exercise for the fingers and for the forearms. So you'll push down through all points with the fingers, and then all I want you to do is lift the wrist up and lower it back down. And you're essentially just going to do reps of this. Anything up to 50 is sufficient. You do not have to do 50 at all, but this was really efficient at strengthening your forearms, all of these muscles along the back of your arm. And essentially, all of those muscles are going to help to support your wrist through all of the range of motion that you're going to need doing yoga, okay? So try and keep all the fingers down. It's okay if your thumbs lift up to start with. And then the next time you lift them up, hold there. Hold, and release. Okay? Shake out your hands, and well done. That's essentially all I'm going to teach you about the wrists in this video, okay? So hopefully this gives you a good idea of how important your forearms are when it comes to your wrist movements. Now, the more pressure that we put on our wrists, our body's pretty incredible at this, right? So if we use something quite a lot, say we use a muscle all the time, for instance, just as an example, you go to the gym and you do rakes of bicep curls. Your biceps obviously going to need to increase in size and muscle mass and strength to accommodate and to be able to keep doing that or to lift something slightly heavier. The same goes for a lot of other things within our body, okay? So what can happen is when we start to increase the amount of time that we're spending on our wrists, your body will increase the bone density at your wrists, okay, to be able to better support that. And as much as you'll increase the strength through your forearms, your fingers, your hands, your grip strength, all of that stuff, all comes together to increase the amount of time you can comfortably spend on your hands, okay? So thank you very much for watching, and I hope this has been a useful video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.